You may be seated. How wonderful is the King of Glory this day. Isn't it wonderful that we serve a risen Savior and that all praise and glory, honor, majesty, power, dominion belongs to Him? And I just want you to know today that because He got up, we can get up. When Jesus got up from the grave, what came out with Him was all of your potential, all of your dreams, all of your visions, all of your aspirations, everything that God planted in you, everything that's a part of your divine purpose and a part of your divine destiny, everything that the Lord had put in you when He raised Jesus, He raised it in you. He raised everything that has become discouraged in you over the years. All of your hope that became deferred to the degree that it almost made you feel like it doesn't matter anymore. He raised your hope, your desire, your life, the drive to want to live again, to thrive. All that we are because of Him. And on that fateful day, when it was time for Him to be crucified, how ironic it was that they would turn a robber and a murderer, Barabbas, free. They had this thing that once a year they would give clemency to somebody. And they chose Barabbas, a convicted murderer sitting on death row. And can you imagine the soldiers that came to his cell after his indefatigable night of worry and stress, fear and trepidation that had filled his heart, sitting there thinking what it would feel like when his last breath was exhaled. And soldiers show up at his cell and say, "Come with us." And he walks the green mile and comes down through the corridors. And they finally look over at him and tell him, "You're free to go." And he thought that he was about to be put to death, and he was actually put to life. And may I just suggest to you that this is the same thing that Jesus did for us. He ransomed our soul. He took our place. He didn't merely die for you, He died as you. We were Barabbas on death row, sitting waiting to die and to bust hell wide open. Jesus changed places with us. He took the guilt that was on Barabbas because Barabbas had already been convicted of the murder. And what Jesus did when He came to the crime scene, He removed all of Barabbas's fingerprints from the scene and put His own there. So when they came back, they would find no evidence of Barabbas's guilt, but they found the fingerprints of Jesus that incriminated him, and he became guilty for that for which Barabbas was convicted of. And the very thing that we are guilty of, Jesus took the rap for us, was convicted and served the sentence. You know the story. I'm just glad that this Jesus, who was so plentiful in mercy and grace toward us, loved us enough, valued us enough to say that I'm willing to change places with you. Knowing everything that there is to know about you, he still chose, knowing that we were guilty, knowing that we would not always do the right thing and make the right decisions and always be faithful to what we said that we were going to do or what we said we were not going to do. Jesus said, I'm going to take it for them. And he took it for us. And Christians around the world this day celebrate a risen Savior of something that was resurrected in us, because there are certain things that let the wind out of your balloon and it just deflates us. There's nothing like believing in something and having people close to you burst your bubble. But I just came as his messenger today to say to you, he believes in you. His death was not in vain. When Jesus decided to take your place, it's because of what he saw in you. And he said, that's too valuable for me not to take their place. And he didn't merely die for the sins of the whole world. He did that, but more specifically, he died for your sin. In other words, he would have come had you been the only person alive on the planet. He still would have come and changed places with you, and he did. If you were the only person alive, he would have come and changed places with you. May I just share with you today, if you guys can come here and move this for me. There's sometimes that we use this to preach the book, and other times we just let the book talk out of our heart. But I want you to know today that the incredible Savior that we serve, as he has done a work in our hearts, he didn't do it just so that you could go back to business as usual. He resurrected us to a new life. It's a brand new start. You're talking about being able to reinvent yourself? It's because he gives you a brand new start. You know how it feels to have a bankruptcy cleared off your record? Jesus did something deeper than that for you and for me. And it was because he loved us. You know, Jesus took people from all over the world, all different ages, it didn't matter. And he embraced them and he loved them. You know that 35% of the teachings of Jesus were in parabolic form. And I'm going to ask a young man to come and help me today. I want to tell you a little story about a boy that a man found carrying a bird cage full of birds. And the old man asked the boy, "What's that you got, son?" And the young man responded, "I've been collecting birds from all over, all kinds, and I've got them and put them in my cage." The old man wondered, "How did you catch these birds?" And he says to him, "I lure them with bread. Put the bread down and they follow the breadcrumbs. And then he said, I throw a net on them and put them in my cage." And the old man asked the young man, "Now what you're going to do with all these birds?" And he said, well, I've got a stick and I poke them and make them angry with each other until they fight each other and kill each other. And those that don't die because they fought and killed each other, I kill them. He said there's absolutely none of them that get away alive. The old man, seeing the cage full of birds, saying, son, how much do you want for your bird cage? And they negotiate. The young man says, this is a nice cage. And it took me a lot of time and effort to catch all of these birds. And the old man reaches in his pocket and gives him everything that he's got. The boy said, it's a deal. And he leaves the cage with the old man. Thank you. And the old man takes the old cage, lifts it up, and lets all of the birds go free. And may I tell you that this is what the enemy has done all of our life. He's lured us, people, all types, all ages, educated, uneducated, black, white, Latino, Asian, all over the world, African, lured them with his breadcrumbs, fame, the inordinate love of money, pornography, pride, lust, lures them. So come over here, come get this, alcohol, drugs. He begins to lure them until they come. And then he throws them a net over them. It's got them caught now, caught up in something. And he's got a cage full of them. And once he gets the cage full, he locks the cage. And he pulls out his poker and starts prodding them, provoking the birds so that they get angry and fight each other. And now the black one is fighting the white one, and the Asian is fighting the Latino. Racial discriminations, and now the educated ones are fighting the uneducated ones, and the rich ones are fighting the poor ones. And now the males are fighting the females, and he's got classism going on, and sexism going on, and nationalism going on, and he's dividing so he can conquer. And he lured them all with his breadcrumbs of pride, of drugs, of alcohol, pornography, the love of money, fame, position. Got a cage full of them and makes them fight each other until they kill each other. Black on black crime makes them kill each other until God sent Jesus. And he says, those that don't kill each other, I'm going to kill them. I'll make them commit suicide. I put thoughts in their minds so that they become self-loathing. I'll make them angry with the whole world and show them people who betrayed them and abandoned them. I'll make them be so filled with anger and rage and fury. I'll make them feel like the whole world is unfair. And they'll not only have no regard for their own life, they have no regard for the life of another. And those that don't take their own life, I'll use them to take the lives of others. And Jesus, looking at Satan with the cage of man, the cage bird that was designed to go free. He says, how much you want for him? I want your life. You give me yours, I'll give you everything I've caught. Jesus says, deal. And he takes the cage. And after he's gotten all of the souls that the devil has captured for a lifetime, he takes these that he's paid for with his precious blood, and him that the Son sets free is free indeed. And he liberates an entire human population by the act of one unselfish man born of a virgin who put others before he put himself, and was so submitted to the will of his Father that he took no regard for the human shame and suffering and the death that he had to pay so that you and I could get out of the cage. And we've been set free today by this redemptive work that was on Calvary. He owns the cage, the body, and he owns the soul. And it is not until we are in his ownership that he even has the authority to open our souls and set us free. Free from the enslaving thoughts of guilt. Free from the shame. Guilt is over what you did. Shame is over who you are. Jesus said, I'm going to set you free of guilt and shame. I'm going to set you free of your addictions, of your depression, of your grief, of your inferiority complex. He came to set the captives free. I don't know what your cage is. It could be that somebody walked out of your life and left you in a morass of mediocrity, feeling that you didn't even want to go on any longer. I can't tell you how many living dead folks there are who have no life and are just in survival mode, in a cage with a little bird seed and a little water, enough just to keep them alive, but not living. Jesus came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And he's opened up the cage. And some who have been so scarred by what happened in the cage are still sitting in a cage locked behind an open door by their own thoughts and by their own attachment to memories of the past, that they don't realize that you can fly now. You were born free. And now him that the Son sets free is free indeed. And today, this is the simplicity of the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's that life and circumstances have caged us in. Jesus bought the cage and he bought you. You are not your own. You're bought with a price. You're not your own. He didn't buy you so that he could prod you and aggravate you and make you fight one another until you kill each other off. He bought you so he could set you free, so that he could really call you his own, because if you really love somebody, you'll set them free. It's not bondage, it's freedom. He makes us free. Bow your head. If you're in this place today, nobody walking unless you're coming this way. But if you don't know Jesus and you realize that my soul has been locked, as it were, in a cage, I've almost felt like I've been suffocating in a marriage, in a relationship that's been bondage and abusive to my life. You've been locked in debt, you've been locked in memories of the past, and you are suffocating and just wondering, God, I need help, I need help, I need you, God, I so desperately need you. On this day of resurrection, this day that the world calls Easter, it's saying, I'm going to get up out of my cage. I'm going to fly because I've been bought. And I'm ready to get out of here now. While heads